Later today, the Senate Judiciary Committee will hold a hearing to push for the passage of the Kids Online Safety Act. The bipartisan legislation is sponsored by Democratic Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut and Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. The bill would bolster online protection for children on social media, and it currently has nearly half of the Senate's support, along with support from the owner of Snapchat. CEOs from some of the biggest social media platforms, including Snapchat, will appear at today's hearing, along with Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and ex-CEO Linda Yaccarino. And Senator Blumenthal joins us live from Capitol Hill. Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. I guess, first of all, explain how this legislation will work if it's passed.
Well, it's pretty simple, Mika. What we're trying to do is provide parents and kids the tools so they can disconnect from those black box algorithms that drive bullying, eating disorders, suicidal, self-harm, all of the toxic content on the internet today, giving back control over their online lives, not only to children, but also tools to their parents, and imposing accountability, that is, responsibility on those big tech companies when they fail to mitigate or prevent harm. They're going to be held legally responsible. And finally, more transparency. That is, all those algorithms, people should know how they work, how they really drive addictive content to kids and lead them down to those dark rabbit holes that are so often destructive.
Senator, thank you for being with us today. And what are you hoping to hear from the tech CEOs?
Do you expect pushback?
We're going to hear a lot of verbiage, a lot of high-tech baloney. And I think one of the purposes, one of my goals, is to show how big tech has failed to match action with its promises and commitments. And I'm going to use internal documents from one of those companies, Meta, to show that at the very time the head of global safety was here on the Hill in 2021 before my subcommittee and saying they were doing everything possible, literally, that's what she said, everything we can, investing heavily, her words. They internally knew that their efforts were understaffed and fragmented. That's the quote from one of those internal documents. The head of global policy, Nick Clegg, the top policy guy, who also said, we are not on track to succeed in our core well-being goals, including, and he made specific reference to bullying, harassment, suicidal self-injury. So they knew they were failing. And Mark Zuckerberg himself rejected the investment that should have been made and that was requested at that very time, 2021.
Senator Blumenthal, good morning. Millions of parents across the country are grateful for the attempt you're making, at least with Senator Blackburn, to do something about this. I guess the perception, though, is that these CEOs periodically come up to Capitol Hill, they sit, they take a beating from you and the other members of Congress, and then they go back out west and count their billions of dollars, that this is about making money for them. They're not. They can say the right things and they can put up these ad campaigns that we see now that we're safety first and everything else, but that's not true. They want to make a bunch of money and they need to keep doing what they're doing. So are you confident that there can be real change here?
You know, I'm more and more heartened. Leader Schumer has committed to work with me in bringing this bill to a vote. As Mika mentioned earlier, almost half the Senate now is co-sponsoring, evenly divided, Republican, Democrat. We have growing momentum. The SNAP endorsement is a sign of it. But most important, we have those parents. And we've enlisted them to come to the Hill today and tomorrow, more than 40 of them. People like Kristen Bride, whose son Carson was bullied. These stories are really gripping and heartbreaking. And the time is over for, you're absolutely right, these promises and commitments which they've broken. We need action now because we can no longer trust big tech to do it themselves.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned Kristen Bride, who's become a social media reform advocate. Again, her 16-year-old died by suicide in 2020 after suffering relentless bullying online by high school classmates who were able to keep their identities hidden on social media platforms. Kristen, you will be testifying today at that Senate hearing. What do you?
I won't be testifying. I'll be watching.
You'll be watching. What are you hoping to hear? And can you also explain to parents out there the dangers that their kids are exposed to every day when they get on those phones and those laptops?
Well, to answer the first question, I don't have high hopes for today. I think this is our 10th hearing on child safety online. And we keep hearing these promises from the CEOs that safety is their first concern, yet they do go back and they continue to put a priority on users, number of users, and time spent. And so what we're finding is that as far as those harmful features is that they are creating addictive and manipulative products to keep kids glued to these screens. And the anonymous apps that my son encountered were integrated into Snapchat. And these apps have a long history of leading to cyberbullying and teen suicides. And the big tech platforms know this, but cyberbullying causes drama online, and that creates more advertising dollars for these companies, sadly.
We know that most of the people who run these companies don't let their kids have cell phones until much later in life, and they keep their kids off social media, which is the hypocrisy of it all.
Well, and we also know that the algorithms are set up to actually cause conflict.
Absolutely.
My kids have even said to me, it's so obvious they want me to get angry and they want me to respond to outrageous posts, and this can have tragic consequences.
And Kristen, I mean, is this legislation even scratching the surface? I mean, when you are living this every day, as you are, and living with the consequence these companies have put in front of all parents, what would the solution be?
I believe the solution is passing the Kids Online Safety Act. It will require that these companies have a duty of care to our children when they are creating their products. And this would prevent them from designing their products to encourage cyberbullying or leading kids down these terrible rabbit holes when they look up something healthy and then young teens are fed eating disorder content. And it would also help parents in that the most protective settings will be set by default. Right now, that's really hard for parents to navigate the multiple apps with all the changes and the different features.